What is up, fellow sickos? I am Dan Valley coming at you with the one, the only, the certified fantabulous Mr. Grant Hughes. The off-season look-ahead train, continues to roll onward. We are on to the Utah Jazz, who aren't about that tanking shit. Grant, no more. Thank you, Austin Ainge. How are you doing before we get started?
I'm ready to not tank this offseason look ahead either. You're not gonna have to worry about that, just like you won't have to worry about the Jazz losing on purpose. They'll do it they'll do it naturally.
That's kind of the place to start, is because you see the Austin Ainge comments, and I think they've been overblown because you sort of alluded to this. You can be the Jazz, use your picks, do whatever you want this offseason, and try to win in the West, and you will still finish 14th or 15th next year, probably. So I thought it felt like him trying to make this show of force, and I just think people kind of bought into it. When I don't think, all right, Walker Kessler won't be taking 5 3-pointers a game at some point next. Like, that might be what he means by we're no longer tanking. But I do think it lends itself to the question of, do the Utah Jazz need to take a bigger swing this offseason? Because we're now 3 seasons into their rebuild, and they don't have a single player on this team that is their guiding force of the future. I think the closest they come, if we were to rank them, is Will Hardy, their head coach. Then there's a gap, and then it's like, is it Lauri Markkanen? Is it Isaiah Collier? Is it Walker Kessler? Is it you could say the number 5 pick. That's probably, I guess the number 5 pick is the answer right now, right?
Sure. Unless you could say any of the future first rounders in drafts even later than this one. That's
a problem then, because you're just sitting here waiting around for those.
That's what. Yeah, no. The core issue here is the cornerstone problem, and that the Jazz don't have one. That's the thing to work through here. Do they need to take a big swing? Let's talk about what does that look like? What does that mean? Because to me, we'll get into it here with some of their cap situation. Good. So they're going to have about maybe more than $30 million in room beneath the tax. Which will depend on some of the non-guarantees on the roster. That includes salaries they're going to pay to first rounders. This could be a higher number. Before we get into and they'll have the non-taxpayer mid-level, they'll have the biannual. They already have 13 guaranteed contracts, including those 2 first rounders. Got 1 billion picks coming in the next few drafts. 11 actually they have control of. The cap space thing. I want to ask you, and we can jump around after this. There's a possibility, given the number of expiring contracts they have on the books, that they could be a Brooklyn Nets cap room level team next off season, because you've got Clarkson, you've got Collins, you've got Colin Sexton. You basically don't, and Markkanen's deal is the only big one on the books. So could you think, as the Jazz, let's let that money come off? Let's be a massive free agent player. I know, stop laughing. It's the Jazz. That doesn't happen for them. Can we carve out a ton of cap space for next off season, take on assets, then be the facilitator, be in the Brooklyn role that everybody's so envious of this summer, because everything goes through Brooklyn. There's more competition probably next summer. We don't know. A bunch of teams could spend up with the cap space. Or do you take on longer money now by trading those expirings and filling up the books? You remove the cap space play, and then you get just the conventional get assets for the trouble of taking stuff on. You got a couple options, and I don't know what the right one is. So what have you given that some thought? I know it's this offseason, but the Jazz could really be gaming this for an offseason after this one.
There will be a point in the slideshow where it asks, are they better off? How does that impact it? Because they could have $70+ million.
This either.
Yes, we did not. So I think it's going to factor in a huge deal, and what's interesting is when people point out that cap space doesn't matter in Utah for free agency, they're probably right, except they're also very wrong, because 2 things. You can always do something like Indiana did with Bruce Brown in 2023. It's not a star, but you inflated someone's deal that you can then use in a trade. Or, by the way, Keith Smith of Spotrac says this all the time, cap space isn't just about free agents. You can use it in trades, to facilitate trades, to really define trades. It can be the difference for if you're going out and you identify the player that you want. We gave up 1 or 2 fewer first-round picks than we would have because we were just able to absorb a bunch of money. What I think is probably not being talked about enough, though, and you mentioned it a couple times, they have so many expiring contracts this year that they could probably just functionally do the same thing Like, if they wanted to, like, John Collins is, teams could look at, assuming he picks up his player options, teams will look at him or Clarkson or Colin Sexton as either relief down the line or someone else they could flip for more value later. That might appeal to teams more now. So I don't think it functionally changes what they do this offseason, aside from if you're on the fence about someone or you're thinking about making a move just for the sake of making a move or taking on bad money, let's say, I do think it'll impact them there, to where it's if you want them to be the Jeremy Grant team or something, if Portland's want to compensate, they're probably not going to be that team, because I think that they'll want to roll over. Like, now, if it's someone that has only a year left, so that they're an expiring contract next year, like, that's the Sam Presti special, right? Continuing to roll over, like, the expiring years. But I think that if you're looking at them to take on, a player that has more than one season left on his contract, like, or two total, that's probably where, like, maybe they would draw the line to me.
Okay, because that has been sort of the conventionally discussed use of expirings, right? It's like for a team in their position, it's like, hey, we'll send you Collins if he picks up the option, $26.5 million, send him out for someone that makes roughly similar money for a longer stretch of time, or maybe more if you preserve enough cap space via other means with picks attached. Like that's the playbook for the expiring contract. So you're saying you don't like the idea of that because just keeping that space clear allows you to get assets potentially as a facilitator in other trades that don't have the bad money attached. Like that's like kind of plan A, basically.
Right. Because I just think, like, even when you're talking about how valuable the open space is, so to speak, we very rarely just see like player, like a top 40 player was just sent basically for cap space, and like that just doesn't happen anyway. So I don't think it needs to impact them too much, but at the same time, like if you're starting to get itchy, or you view next summer as kind of that inflection point where if the number 5 pick doesn't pan out, like we really need to hit the turbo button elsewhere, that's where that becomes super valuable. So I think it's I really do. I'm repeating myself. I don't think it impacts this offseason too much, aside. And by the way, there are just so few long-term deals on the books that it's just like hard. Them thinking someone with 2 more seasons we're not going to take. That list is so short. But like a Bradley Beal as an example, if he was ever to waive his no-trade clause to go to Utah, they probably don't want that really big-ass expiring contract on the books either, because those can be, we look at them as like these really awesome trade chips, and it's like, no, like $50+ million is actually pretty hard to move in a trade.
Increase, and it's only getting harder. I think that's right.
We will get to needs and targets as always, but I think we should begin with the extension eligibility of Walker Kessler. This is just for reference. He's not getting the max, but a 4-year rookie max would be 4 years and $190.5 million, or 5 years and $246.7 million. I feel fairly confident in saying he is going to sign for neither of those values. But Grant, how much is he worth? And is he worth more to the Jazz given their current situation, where this is a player who he's valuable. He can be the base of a defense. It'd be nice to see better talent in front of him. He did take threes last year. He shot like 54% from floater range as well. If you're the Jazz, what are you doing here? Is it better? Because if you extend him, you're probably not going to trade him then. So is it better to just extend him? And if so, like, what's the number that would get you, we have to pounce on this? Or is it better to, like, just as an example, does it make more sense to hold that? Like, if the Lakers came with the Mark Williams special and said, here's Dalton Knecht, a 2030 swap, and our 2031 first for Walker Kessler, are you turning that down?
I mean, I would think pretty hard about that if I'm Utah, partly because of the extension and how difficult it is to figure out. He's a really dangerous player type to extend, because he is a non-stretch, non-switch big. I know, like, certainly those guys have more utility than they did like 3-4 years ago, when it was like, you can't play that guy. It's unless he's Rudy Gobert, it's untenable. But like, my first thought was like, I don't know, are we talking like Jakob Poeltl money maybe? Like this, do you go over 100 for 4 years? Like, that seems crazy. But then Kessler also, like, your list going down the list of like who are their corners, like I think he's their best young player, like by a pretty considerable margin, or at least the most established of their young guys. I'm not including Markkanen in that group. He's like in the middle of his career at this point. So like, it would be easy enough for the Jazz to say like, yeah, we'll do 4 for 140. Like, that's, I don't know, that look how far below his max that is.
Right.
He's been one of the most productive players of his rookie class. Like, you could justify that. I would feel very uncomfortable with that just because I think he's maybe not quite good enough to be like he's the reason we'll just have a top 5 defense forever. Like he's not that level. And then like what is he doing for a team that's this bad and this young and has this few like projectable really good players? Like if the Jazz had like sniffed the playoffs last year because their defense was awesome, maybe. But right now it's like I think 4 for 100 is I don't know how you could go much above that.
Right. And so I would say this is that I probably would think, because as you mentioned, like the max for rookies is 25%, coming off the rookie scale, is 25% of the salary cap. So when you were just lowering it 4 for 140, you've like basically slashed that to 20% of the salary cap or less. And that's for a starting center, which I believe that Walker Kessler is, that's not the end of the world. I don't know if you would call it great value. That's a number maybe I'm thinking about, but if I'm the Jazz, and this goes for all teams, and I'm not saying I'm pro corporation here, but just the way that the rules are set up, I don't understand why, especially for like the non-superstars, just take it to restricted free agency. We just don't see offer sheets given out. The Jazz were actually the last one to give out an RFA offer sheet for Paul Reed. It was Paul Reed, Grant.
And wasn't that like weirdly like
right
tweaked
if the
so
Philly
screwed the Sixers?
Yeah, so it was just it ended up not even guaranteeing anyway. So I'm taking it to restricted free agency almost no matter what. Now, if he's like, I will sign for 4 for 80, yeah, I think or even 4 for 100, you probably have to do it because like $25 million moving forward of the salary cap is like what, 15% or close to it. So like, I think you have to do that. But if he's maybe he wants to roll the dice too, then you just wait, because what's the harm? Who is someone who's going to have cap space next year coming in and like tying up their flexibility and all of their cap space and Walker Kessler? No, that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
And so it does leave am I doing the Lakers trade?
Yeah.
I don't want to say I don't think he's an NBA player, but like the Dalton Connect stuff is just, I view him as like a second round flyer. I don't view him as just first round prospect level. I'm thinking about it. I like, what if there's no protections on that first, and it basically there can't be if you wanted to convey. I'd probably do it, but like Luka's on this team now, so it's not the LeBron timeline. I think you need to factor that in, but I'm probably doing it just because I look at it now and say, well, maybe I don't want to pay Walker Kessler 15 to 20% of the salary cap moving forward because I don't think I'm going to be good enough.
Yeah, I think the reluctance to pay Kessler, I think for the Jazz, to me, has as much to do with the quality of the team and like where they are in their competitive trajectory. It has more to do with that than with like how good he actually is, if that makes sense. Like for them, it doesn't make sense to have $100 million center right now. Like I don't get it.
Would you trade him to the Knicks for you? The money could work easily, but you get both of their swaps in 2030 and 2032, and if they'll give you like, you could have Kolek or Dottier and that Wizards pick, which is going to be 2 seconds. You would do that?
So. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, again, like, what is Kessler getting you right now as the Jazz? I'd rather just try to short the future of more teams. That's why the Lakers thing is compelling to me too, even though they have Luka. It's just like, I don't know. You got control of so much control of Cleveland and Minnesota, and you could just throw another team in there, and somebody's going to suck. So one of these is going to pay off.
Lauri Markkanen, Grant. People want to know if he's going to get traded. Do you want to take us through some stuff on him?
Yeah, so the question is, what is his value? And that's become harder because he's kind of slipped and from his all-star level of a couple of years ago and has not been playing very much now with Austin Ainge in charge. I am sure he's going to play all 82 games, if only to avoid $100,000 fines. But he is still on the books. Well, not still. Thanks to the deal last summer, is on the books for $195.9 million over the next 4 years. Easy for me to say, which takes him through, this surprised me, through his age 31 season. Lauri Markkanen is not young anymore. He's 27. Can he improve his trade value this season? I think a lot of that would depend on how good Utah is and how much he's going to play. Do they have the infrastructure to set him up for success? That would probably include like quality point guards. They have a couple prospects on that front. They're both iffy in Collier and Keontae George. Now, if the offers aren't great, do you just keep him? He's not hurting the rebuild because a big guy that can shoot on the move just opens the offense up, and maybe that helps your young guards play better. That spaces the floor so your bigs have more room to operate inside. Like, is a value add, but if you're the Jazz, are you just kind of looking around at like where we are and ask? This was the same question that we talked about last summer when he was up for an extension / potentially being traded. It's like, what use do we really have for this guy that's clearly like not remotely in our timeline? Like, and what do we risk by not trading him? Like, will his value go up? Will it go down? Like what? So the pieces he doesn't fit here really in terms of like the age bracket, but he helps other guys look better. So are you trading him? Like, what's that return need to look like for you? Do you wait, see if he ups his value with another all-star season? I don't know.
I don't think so here's my thing is that I've seen people frame it as like you should just move him because he doesn't make sense here. That's not why you move a player. If he was winning you too many basketball games, even when he was playing, that's one thing. He was not. And so you're trading him. You're the Jazz. We went over this at the top. You have 11 first-round picks coming to you over the next. Like, you have extra first-round picks. Unless those picks are going to be super high-end, and because you don't kind of have a cornerstone right now, you might not actually be as interested in like if the Miami Heat just came calling as an example and says, here's Jaime Jaquez, we'll give you the 2 distant first-round picks that we could, like 2030 and 2032 or 29, 2031. I don't know if that's enough, just because if I'm Utah, I need kind of more, and maybe you're super high on Jaime Jaquez, I don't know. So I'm looking at it as unless a team is gonna, you're not getting what the Nets got for Mikal Bridges. That's not happening because the Lauri Markkanen's contract, I do think it's lowered his value, even had he played well. Mm-hmm. There's value in having him under contract, but at this number, he's no longer this super net positive. But like, because he's not harming the rebuild, I don't like, unless the offers are gonna bowl you over. You don't have to move him, because you know what? If his value gets even lower, do you know what happens, Grant? Nothing. How has that hurt Utah? Like, at some point, now his deal is only going to have fewer years left on it. So by the time you're ready to contend, he's either going to have 2 years or be an expiring contract. So even if he's like the worst basketball player in the NBA, he's not immovable. And like, spoiler alert, the Jazz aren't going to be contenders next season. And if they are, it's not going to be because in spite of Lauri Markkanen either.
It'll be because of him.
Yeah. So I don't understand I understand why people look at this because they want to see him on a good team and think good teams should make an offer. I don't think the offers are going to be commensurate with, like, not even what he's necessarily worth to Utah, but just like with the value proposition of, well, let's just, like, that guy can at least play. And if you're looking at these deals, you're getting picks from probably teams that will be better, and then are you getting salary they don't want? So I don't think I'm not outright opposed to moving him. Again, if someone just comes with an offer that you can't refuse, yeah, do it. Like if Houston came calling, because Houston can create its own trade market, and it was like, we'll give you Jabari Smith, number 10, other stuff for Lauri Markkanen. Sure. Like, yeah, you absolutely have to listen. But like, if you're just getting 2 first-round picks in salary, no, I don't think you move Lauri Markkanen.
Now, what do you think about the idea that like he does play really well and he does hurt the tank? So you know what I mean? Like you say he's not hurting the tank. Like what if he's the reason? I mean, this has happened before. Yeah,
but then you trade him for the real value that you want, and it's like you have the leverage of saying we'll just shut him down and take a couple $1 million worth of fines for the last like 50 games of the season or whatever it is. So I don't like that is an easier problem to solve than like looking back and just saying like we traded Lauri Markkanen for the number 27 and number 21 picks in like alternating drafts or something.
Yeah. I see. I could see like if you have to trade him because he's hurting the tank, then that's a great problem because his value is high all of a sudden.
And it's just I don't think you're in a position to where even if this contract ages poorly, that it hurts what vision you're on. That hurts you if you need to be a contender right away, which the Jazz, and this is putting it charitably, are at least 2 years away, in which case you can already see the horizon at the end of the Lauri Markkanen deal at that point. If
I was going to say, like, you're saying, like, well, he's not going to hurt it. He's not going to hurt the tank in 2 years. It's like, well, when he's retired, the Jazz will be ready to contend. Like, at some point, like in the mid-2030s, I guess, like, he really won't be an issue. It feels that far off, honestly.
Do you know what's a more fascinating conversation to me? And I guess this would be a good time to pivot to kind of like, well, what do they need? What is the targets? What if you tried to use Lauri Markkanen to accelerate your position of getting a cornerstone to where you recognize you're not a contender, but is there just something to that? Where I think preferably you would use, you have Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, you have all this expiring money, you have some prospects teams might be interested in, you have all this extra first-round equity, but you also have Lauri Markkanen. Like that, depending on what the team is that's sending you who, that's sending you what, like that might be of interest to them. But I want to ask you, though, this goes back to the Austin Ainge comments. Like, do you agree, though, that they were kind of being overblown? First of all, the whole, we don't do that here anymore when it comes to tanking.
I think that's the way people wanted to take it, but I agree with you that it was more like, well, one, it's like we're trying not to get fined, so we're going to say up front that, oh, no, we will not do, no shenanigans here. But yeah, I think the way I took it was like, the way I interpreted it cynically was like, yeah, of course you're not going to do that because you're just going to be really bad organically, and you're not going to need to pull a bunch of shifty moves to be bad. But he can't say that. It is like half projection of like, oh, we're turning it around, and half like acknowledgement of like we're bad and that's just where we are. I don't know.
So I think we could talk about like actual archetypes or like needs to fill, but their biggest need is, it's a cliche, but like it's important, and it's really important for them because we're 3 seasons into the rebuild. They need that tentpole cornerstone. And so I want to ask you, if you're Utah, how aggressive are you this offseason? And I'll like just to add a layer to it. Is it we have number 5? Maybe we could look at moving up in the draft a little bit. Could we get into the top? It seems like the Spurs might be shopping number 2 as we're recording this, or be willing to move it. Is it something like that? Is it just, no, we'll use number 5 and like that, hopefully that pans out. If not, we'll continue to remain patient, try to build through the draft? Or is there like, could you talk yourself into identifying the right player and saying like, what if it's Ja Morant? What if it's Trae Young? What if it's LaMelo Ball? Do you go out and try and accelerate your position by saying, no, we're not trying to contend next year. We're not mortgaging everything, but we believe we can get somebody who's maybe on the Lauri Markkanen timeline, but that gives us sort of a guiding force to move forward with. Like, what is you're running the Jazz. How are you approaching that?
So I had not really ever considered option 2 of like, let's go get a second veteran star. We have Markkanen, we have Kessler. Let's see where that gets us. And I guess I shy away from that because of how far away I think they are, even with those other guys I just mentioned. So I still think I'm playing it just sort of by the rebuild book of let's lose, let's collect young players and picks, and hopefully this number 5 pans out. If you could trade up to 2, I'd be very interested. Other than that, like the difference between 3 and like 12 to me is like, you read a lot of draft write-ups. It's like, I don't know. Like it doesn't seem like there's no consensus there that there's like a clear, advantage to being 3rd versus 4th versus 5th versus 8th or whatever.
You would just have to say we're in love with VJ Edgecombe or
yeah.
Like that's what you would need to think. Yeah.
Which even that would be somewhat encouraging because it's like, okay, they found a guy they really like. Maybe this is the one. Maybe they're right about this. It's boring, but I think I just play it straight and I just wait. I continue to wait. Like they ran into bad luck. They ran into bad luck really. Like they were too good for a couple of first halves. Might have cost them Wembanyama. Like where just like that's you can't let that just short circuit the whole plan. I don't think. And maybe like because the names you mentioned like Ja Morant or whoever like. How good are you? Are you good enough? Like, I guess if you don't have to give up too many of those picks you have in that giant surplus for that, that could be compelling, especially if you're a Jazz fan that wants to watch a team that's competitive. I get it. But I think I'm just slow playing it still. What about you?
Honestly, because if it was like LaMelo Ball, where it's just someone who's super young or kind of early into that rookie extension, like, is there I don't think they are, and I actually got trolled for one of my hottest like Blazers takes on social media the other day. But like, if the Blazers were open to just talking about Scoot Henderson, I think he's going to be better than any of the guards, Isaiah Collier or Keontae George, they have in place right now. He's already better than them, quite frankly, to me. I know Collier, the passing, whatever. I'm more open to it than I think you are, but I don't think that that's like you go into this offseason like, no, that's what we have to do. I would be more inclined of saying, like, would you do this? As an example, John Collins and let's say Colin Sexton and number 5 for Paul George and number 3.
I don't think I want that Paul George contract. I think that's a good illustration, though, of how it's generally. Oh, I don't want to take a swing, but what I guess what I really mean more precisely is like it's got to tell me the guy. Like it's certain guys. Yeah, like LaMelo is a great example. I think you do. If you can get LaMelo for
Garland, if I don't know why, by the way, we're going to mention this like probably 80. I don't know why there's reporting that Cleveland would consider a move. That just seems like such a boneheaded move.
You can't get better by trading Darius Garland. I don't think. Like LaMelo, sure. Garland, sure. Morant, I don't know. Just run down the list of like young Scoot that you have my interest. But yeah, like it would have to be pretty specific, and none come to mind as obvious and also like gettable. You know.
What about what about Jaylen Brown?
So you're built around Brown, Kessler, Markkanen, and whatever like young guys remain. You want that Brown contract? You sure?
I'm just asking questions, Grant.
I'm asking questions of you.
I don't. I mean, it depends on the cost, but if it's like number 5 and salary, and I guess I don't hate it because you have all this other stuff left over. But the idea of paying Lauri Markkanen and Jaylen Brown $100 million combined is just like we're not even sure we have our best player. Like that
right.
means like if you can contender, that'd be awkward. But Jaylen Brown, Walker Kessler, and Lauri Markkanen is a heck of a front line.
It's pretty good. Then the onus is really on the Jazz to find a point guard they trust.
What about
long term?
2 other names? We're just sticking with Grizzlies. Would you like Jaren Jackson Jr. or Desmond Bane? Do those 2 do anything for you?
Jackson more than Bane, just because him and Markkanen together I really like up front would be pretty interesting offensively. I don't know. Jackson is like right on the borderline of young enough to like for me to be excited about that. I don't know. Bane, no, I don't think. I think Bane has proved he's like a third guy on a team that is dangerous but not a real contending threat. So that's the kind of guy the Bane class of player at that pay rate is one I think you want to avoid, right? Like you need someone either younger and and or better. I think if you're taking the swing,
would you do? And I feel like the Jazz probably have close to like choose your own adventure trade assets, right? Like create your own market.
Yeah.
What if you just went and you were able to keep Lauri Markkanen as part of the process, and you went to the Heat and were able to get Bam Adebayo?
I'm on board because he transforms the whole end of the floor for you, and now okay. Some things become possible with someone like Bam.
I'm just trying to think of and he's like older too, like he's closer to 30 than he is to 23.
Right.
So yeah, I don't. What about Domas Sabonis?
Sabonis and Markkanen together. You're not guarding anybody. I mean, he would help with the if you're not sure about your point guards, you can run a lot through Sabonis. I don't think it would be very on brand for me though to suggest that the Jazz should get Sabonis.
I'm assuming you're anti-Trae Young for this team. I would agree with you, by the way.
Yeah, but that's a closer question than you might think. Just because then you have an identity.
You're also wondering, would it cost basically almost nothing to get – not nothing, but it's not the number 5 pick, but it's first rounders and expiring contracts. Like that. Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I was wondering what you were going to have Boston send with Jaylen Brown to get him to the Jazz just because that –
Peyton Pritchard? What I mean, what about why?
Why Peyton Pritchard?
You're asking for who do you want them to? You want them to get Drew Holiday too?
No,
that's
I was just saying you just suggested multiple white guys for the Jazz. Come on.
Well, I'm about to suggest. Am I about to suggest another white guy? No, I'm not. Would you do it for Anthony Davis?
Oh, that's interesting.
If he said, "I'll stay. I'll sign my next deal here."
Well, was Walker Kessler gone? No, Walker Kessler has to stay because AD's not center, right?
Right.
That's a fun front line. If Kessler, Davis, Markkanen, gotta be. You love the 3 7-footers up there. That's kind of fun. I'm not against that. But how good is that team?
I have no idea. Would you go? Would they be a Jamal Murray team if he was available?
Oh man, no, I don't think that contract, and he's too old.
I think the point of this exercise is how hard it is to find someone who's like the exact right fit for the Jazz to hit the turbo button. And there's to use the Nuggets as like the example is just it would make more sense for Utah to try and swoop in, pick up Michael Porter Jr. as part of a larger move for the Nuggets and get compensated for doing so than it would be for them to go all out for Jamal Murray. There's a couple of names where I think it would work, but like when we name some of those guys, LaMelo Ball is an example. The Hornets, unless you're getting like kind of the same thing with Lauri Markkanen. They should just trade LaMelo and rebuild around Brandon Miller and the number 4 pick. Okay, great. You don't just do that just because. Like, you need to be bowled over by an offer. And so if he gets traded to the Jazz, I'm kind of like, all right, well, what did they give up to get him? Like, was it 7 first-round picks? Or what did we not find out about LaMelo Ball?
Right.
That he's like a human trafficker or something on the side. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's 2 options, and neither of them is great. No, it is really hard, and even some of the stuff you're throwing out there is like, yeah, even that feels like more of a slow, deliberate play as opposed to like, okay, we got this guy, and now we could finish 6th in the West. Like, no, there's no magic, there's no silver bullet here. It's just even if you take the ambitious course of like, let's go get talent, it's still like we still need to draft and develop around that to have like any kind of like playoff aspirations.
And to wrap up, I don't like getting into the biggest needs with this team because I actually don't think Walker Kessler is the closest they come. And I know they have 1 billion fours, including Lauri Markkanen. There's no position or archetype that you just say. There's no one good enough on this roster to turn down anything. But if we're talking free agency or if they're at a point in the draft where they want to take a flyer on selecting for need, they need wings. Like they still they have a shit ton of what feel like pure fours at the moment,
which is hard in today's NBA.
Like, right. So and like I think you could also like yes they need a tentpole first and like do they even have a floor general? Is it Collier? Is it George? Like do they have enough there? I just like there's Cody Williams. Like who are the wings on this team? Cody Williams, and I'm not Sensabaugh is more of like a guard or a swingman. Like Kenyon Martin Jr. is not a wing. Lauri Markkanen is not a wing. Johnny Juzang's probably like Jaden Springer. So yeah, it would be if I had to distill it down, it'd be wings. But to me, they're very much in talent accumulation mode. And we haven't mentioned him once, and I feel like I'm obligated to do so because I think he could be better than Jaren Jackson Jr. one day. I will not give up on Taylor Hendricks. Healthy Taylor Hendricks is coming, everybody. You heard it here. Probably not first, but you heard it here.
You heard it here again because we have talked up Taylor Hendricks. Yeah, no, I agree. It's just to wrap it, like this team more than almost we've talked about plenty of rebuilders, but like just to compare it, like Washington. Well, okay, they maybe Bub Carrington's something at the guard, maybe Koulibaly's something on the wing, and maybe Alex Sarr is something in the middle. It's just like the Jazz just don't. It's just they just need someone that you can look at and be like, maybe he's the one. Like that. They just don't have that guy, and until they get him, it's going to be just best player available at all times.
We didn't really go into this, but like you can't know like what would need to happen in summer league with whoever they draft at number 5 to feel like that that's going to be the guy.
Yeah. I mean, what you don't want is for it to be like a Cody Williams situation where it's clear like pretty quick, like oh no, like there's a long way to go for someone like that. But yeah,
we didn't look. I'm sorry, we didn't mention this and we should have. But like, would you use Lauri Markkanen to move up to number 2? Or is that like too much to get? Like if it was number 5 and Lauri Markkanen for number 2, I don't know if the Spurs even want that salary when they're thinking about okay, we have Fox and then Wemby in a couple years, but they could be pretty flexible. Like for the next, like they don't have to worry about finances probably until the 3rd, like with I don't know 2 years from now at minimum.
I think if what you hear and read about and have seen from Dylan Harper. If you think that's real, if you think it is like, oh, he might really have like some all NBA ceiling or like several all-star games, like I think we've just said they don't have the guy. And if there's a chance he's the guy, then I think you do trade whatever you got to get him. Because then it just organizes your whole thing. It's like you then have more direction on, okay, what do we need now to support him since he's the one, like that just, there's added value in just having he gives you a direction. When you get the guy in there, that's the cornerstone. That's what you build on top of and around like that. The Jazz don't have that. So yeah, I think you should be willing to make pretty wild ass trades for that.
Why is that been one that's floated around? That no,
Haven't
I feel
seen
like
it.
that it hasn't. That's weird. Maybe it's because
Yeah.
people view Lauri Markkanen's deals underwater. Like, could the Spurs just say, "Why are we moving down to take on that?" Be like a reasonable response. So if you're including
Yeah.
something else, but I haven't seen that floated anywhere. But if I'm
It's
Utah, it's one of those things where that's a risk for the Spurs, but it feels like a lot for Utah to like move up just 3 spots. But I'd probably do it if I'm Utah. I think.
I think so. Yeah, a lot depends on the perception of Markkanen's contract. That's true. Anything else on the Jazz?
Nope.
All right, need a cornerstone. And they should trade Lauri Markkanen.
That
to get it.
you heard it here again. The Jazz need a cornerstone.
Thanks everybody for listening, for watching. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know what your Jazz thoughts are. Should they pull off the Lauri Markkanen trade that you've only ever heard here? Join our Discord, links for that in YouTube and podcast description. Please, word of mouth, help spread the word about this podcast. And if you've got a friend with a favorite team that we've done a look ahead for, let them know. Help us grow the podcast. We've got a few more look aheads to go. This was a good one. Thank you, Dan. Thanks everybody for listening, for watching. Shouts Frank Ntilikina. Apologies, Jarrett Allen.